Hello everyone. Welcome to our next episode, and I'm your host Sana Chawla and the author of the book The Magic Within. Paulina is a dear friend, a vegan chef, and owns a restaurant in Bali. We did the Tony Robbins Unleash Your Power Within workshop in Singapore. We became friends, and that workshop was nothing but transformational. Today I'm sharing Paulina's story from my book. So here the story goes. One morning when I was in my early 20s, I woke up feeling pretty much like I normally did. Heavy and weighed down by a body I loathed. I felt the sadness and loneliness awaken from its overnight slumber and kick into active, self-destructive thoughts. From the moment I realized that the day was starting, the heaviness of my existence made it almost impossible to lift myself out of bed. Why couldn't I sleep my life away until the day arrived when everything would just be okay? How many of you can relate to and empathize with Paulina's predicament? Isn't it true that our self-acceptance often turns to self-loathing because we fall short, or rather we perceive that we fall short, of norms dictated by society? We kowtow to a look and brands crazy color and gender conscious, money and acquisitions minded world. We look, behave, even think as dictated by ruthless societal impositions. How can this not wreak havoc to our psyches? As Paulina puts it, the thought of going out in public made me sink deeper into my bedsheets. Getting up meant putting on clothes, floppy clothes that clearly revealed, well to me at least, what I wanted to hide, when all I wanted was to be as inconspicuous as possible. It was like all eyes were on me, and those eyes were judgmental, reflecting back what I felt. Low self-confidence and self-disgust. Despite having a beautiful life, a student's apartment with a lake view, at all, life was spiraling into an abyss of bleakness. Dear listeners, let me ask you a question here. Can we conquer the self-defeating subconscious workings of our mind? Many self-help manuals talk about external changes. These may work too, but oftentimes it is the reworking of our inner painful subconscious minds that is needed. This, but sometimes, is an arduous and private process that may take time. Did you know that the subconscious mind dictates nearly 95% of your life? It controls not only every physical move, but also our behavior pattern and our feelings. Studies point out that almost 99% of your waking life is reprogrammed by forces that are not consciously yours. How mind-boggling is that? Will Paulina conquer her deepest fears? Deep down, my protagonist knew that she had to seek a Gargothan overhaul of her life. But would she be able to do it? Paulina narrates, "Somewhere deep within me, beneath the self-destructive behavior, I valued my life. I really did. I just had to come to terms with being alive, with myself. I knew I was destined for something greater, and that some lessons just needed to be repeated before I got the answers. I learned that overcoming a depressing situation or surviving an addictive behavior wasn't enough. I wondered why I kept on having groundhog relationships, where I was being taught the same lesson repeatedly, but by different people. My parents probably wondered what on earth I was doing, but to be honest, I was my harshest critic. I could sense there was a better life beyond the fog I was in. I just couldn't see the path out. My relationships offered instant gratification, the hope of love and a better future, but these were just illusions. They were grounded in desperation. While it made me an expert in enticing people into relationships, a puppeteer of sorts. In fact, I was that easy target. This was hard to admit because at my core, I was a person with deeply rooted values. I was overly sensitive, poetic, artistic, and painfully aware of the irony of my situation. Interestingly, even with the new gleam of wisdom in my early 30s, I managed to walk quite blindly into trouble. The worst was when I was vulnerable in search of a spiritual teacher. I had been on the lookout since 2008, which is when I laid the solid foundations of what was to become a new lifestyle, making dietary changes and spending time in meditation, writing, and studying for a career in holistic healing. In August 2011, at the initiation of an Ayurvedic practitioner, I was introduced to a man, clothed in pious white attire, complete with striking grey hair. He was a gifted conversationalist. He introduced himself as a third-generation practitioner of Ayurveda and a spiritually evolved person. Though he repeatedly said he wasn't a guru, it had the opposite effect on me because that is exactly what he projected. I now feel he was just cunning enough to cover his tracks. I was sucked into his world of manipulation and went against my better judgment and intuition. By November 2011, he was openly suggesting that a sexual exchange would help his weakened heart and stamina, whilst empowering me with his spiritual prowess. I ended the relationship and took a year to heal the trauma. When I met other women who had been caught in his deceptive web, I realized that I had escaped relatively unscathed. Becoming a practitioner, I was facilitating healing work by then, and the experience taught me what type of teacher, if I were to become one, I didn't want to be. I decided I would keep my ego in check and to be open, authentic, and constantly remind myself I was in the service of healing others. I realized that many practitioners made me feel like I had something to prove to them as to how well I stuck to their recommended routine of supplements and dietary suggestions. I was in a circle of guilt, as these guidelines did not allow for the flexibility to have a social life. However, all of this helped me become the practitioner I am today. Moderate, compassionate, and encouraging. I am thankful to all the teachers and the lessons they taught me. I am also less likely to walk into relationships blindfolded. Now, if I suspect that a lesson is being presented to me, I choose to learn it much faster, with less drama. I step in with awareness, stay for as long as I need to glean insights, and then step out, wiser and ready to implement and share what I have learned. My key takeaways. Everything, especially a crisis, happens for a reason. Take the lesson and leave the pain behind. Move on. Strive to live in a mindful, meditative way. Meditation and mindfulness are an everyday part of lives. Be alert and yet calm. Let your instincts guide you. Be aware of your inner critic. Listen, but only to learn and grow. Pace how much you take on to avoid burnout. Share your pain with at least one person. Never suffer in silence. Well, Paulina's story is an eye-opener. On a personal note, I have always believed that a healthy self-image can be nurtured. Every step we take towards realigning our thoughts will reaffirm this. Every move we take towards discarding non-authenticity will shore us up. Really, nothing is too small if you think of it. Learning skills, navigating situations, and most importantly, hushing up that small critical voice within. Why each and every attempt is magically restorative. Citing psychology today, sometimes automatic negative thoughts like you're fat or you're lazy can be repeated in your mind so often that you start believing that they are true, says Jessica Coblins. These thoughts are learned, which means they can be unlearned. You can start with affirmations. What do you wish you believed about yourself? Repeat these phrases to yourself every day. So let's sign off with these famous affirmations, shall we? Each day, in every day, we are getting better and better. Thank you so much, friends. Until the next one.